Okay, well, thanks, Carrie. I'm so excited to talk with you today about the optimizations and tools that are in place at CymSTAR. But before I do, I want to tell you a little bit about who CymSTAR is and why Journyx is a critical business system to their organization. And as Carrie mentioned in the intro, Carol Wills is presenting with me today, and she's going to provide a demonstration of the real-time data analytics her finance team and program managers are getting from Power BI using that Journyx data. CymSTAR is a training and simulation company operating as CymSTAR LLC and CymSTAR Services LLC. They provide configuration management, systems engineering, and program management with specialization in commercial and military simulation and training systems. They actually operate as two companies, which is an interesting detail when it comes to their shared operating systems. The companies share the same management, finances, accounting, human resources, and internal processes. Time data is critical to their business, making Journyx a key system. Their employees track time not only for the purpose of payroll, but by government, commercial, and private contract activities for job costing as well. So that data is dual purposed. CymSTAR's simulation engineering services extend to all branches of the Department of Defense. And as you may expect in this field, that means CymSTAR data has high data security, high data sensitivity, and high auditing practices requiring DCAA and union agreement compliance. Before I identify each Journyx tool that is in place, let's consider the past, present, and future state of the project time tracking in the organization. Prior to Journyx, CymSTAR used AX and Deltac for time tracking and processed payroll manually via ADP. The AX solution was broken, literally not working, and the two systems were in use by the separate companies with a broken data stream. Carol and I sat down to visit about the prior tools and current state since it had been a few years since we worked together. And in response to my question, what were the goals then? She replied, and I quote, "The original goal was to implement a new tool that worked, period." I didn't quite take her literally, thinking, well, every tool still works, it's just not working functionally. And in fact, it was not working at all. AX was broken, and running two different solutions was not effective. The data collected was not being used efficiently, and keep in mind, this was a continuous payroll cycle for two separate companies. So just under 2 years ago, the Journyx implementation began, and in 2.5 months, our teams worked to launch Journyx to both companies simultaneously across the United States for all staff and contractors. During this time, SimStar established a secure, authenticated, single-point time collection platform that is data maintained by the source systems, D365 and ADP, and provides continuous PTO accrual generation and payroll data for the entire organization. Once this was in place, Carol continued in a pursuit of improved data analytics by linking Power BI for real-time business intelligence. It may help to get a little understanding of the numbers. SimStar employs over 240 employees across 8 locations in 7 states. That means there are users in many different payroll areas, thinking about overtime rules especially. So think about California, Utah, Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. I mentioned that SimStar previously managed 2 completely separate timesheet systems, one for each company. That is certainly no longer the case, as all non-exempt and exempt employees are in a single instance in the Journyx cloud. Today, system administration is non-dedicated and includes team members from HR and finance. This means that no administrator is tasked with Journyx upkeep or data management full-time. Over the next few minutes, we'll review more specifically the key data interfaces and tools in place that have successfully minimized that Journyx system administration for their teams. There are 4 systems interfacing with Journyx on a daily basis: Okta, Microsoft Dynamics 365, ADP, and Microsoft Power BI. The data workflow is incoming and outgoing to both ADP and D365 on a daily basis. So you can see from our data workflow model that Journyx users are authenticating to Okta. Time data is flowing into ADP for payroll processing. And then external of Journyx, labor costing data is flowing from ADP to D365, completing that full picture. And as if that was not enough, SymSTAR is actually also using Power BI and a data lake to maximize their data analytics. So let's talk about automated business data management. One big contributor to system administration efficiency is the use of Journyx import tools to create and maintain new employee and new activity data from those source systems. Nightly, those data files from D365 and ADP are dropped to the Journyx cloud and imported to the system using standard import utility schedules. This alleviates most administrator data management, specifically onboarding new hires, employee metadata changes, new project and activity creation, and continued project access management. I want to iterate that this isn't custom development. SymSTAR is using the same import tools that are available to each Journyx installation, but in an automated and scheduled frequency. How little administration are we talking? Noteworthy is that in January last month, their admin team processed pay increases for all employees. The same pay rate data that is used in import to Journyx as a component of their payroll data is critical. But in this import, those pay rate updates effectively completed all pay increases for all staff. And this was done within a 98% accuracy. So only 5 staff counts were updated manually by the admin team. SymSTAR is making use of other Journyx add-on tools that you may or may not have heard of. Journyx SSO is in place, authenticating all users with their identity management system, Okta. This means that all password management is handled outside of Journyx. So no admin requests for password resets, no broken email links, and it provides SymSTAR with a single point to disarm user data access across all of their systems, not just Journyx. The accrual calculator tool calculates all PTO earnings across 10 unique accrual earning plans. So a fun fact, when you are providing services within multiple union contracts, it is entirely probable that the accrual earning plans are completely different. This tool allows a client to define employee accrual plans and earning tiers for the whole organization. It runs behind the scenes, again, on a schedule, advancing accrual earnings on the frequency that your company earns. So in SymSTAR's case, this is on a regular frequency, but it can support annual, weekly, bi-weekly accrual earnings across all accrual tiers. With the ongoing earning of PTO, employees are able to complete leave requests and PTO entries in Journyx. This results in real-time accrual balances. The Journyx accrual balances are always real-time, providing employees the most current earnings and planned PTO for accrual reporting. Each of these tools helps streamline employees' access to key data. But one that has greater benefit to the business is the DCAA toolset. The DCAA toolset is an extended set of compliance tools. It enables SymSTAR to send daily reminders for timesheet compliance to all staff at the manager level. Timesheet compliance reportability is also available, as well as extended auditing for timesheet corrections. This is a big gain for SymSTAR because this particular activity used to require 30 minutes to an hour every day when it was done manually across prior systems. And so today, supervisors are empowered with data to monitor their employees' compliance because Journyx does the rest. In addition to that data incoming from ADP that we spoke about when we talked about the data management practices, Journyx is also exporting job costed payroll back to ADP using the Journyx payroll rules engine. The payroll rules engine is configured to capture overtime and pay calculations. This is also where that incoming pay rate data becomes vital. Earning amounts are calculated by employee and activity for exempt and non-exempt staff and exported in flat file for import to ADP. And I'm going to stop there because I keep iterating that exempt staff are also part of this picture, and that's true for job costing. So while exempt staff may not be as pertinent for payroll purposes, when we're job costing payroll, that means we're capturing time for project for all staff. So a total picture of cost. SymSTAR payroll processes that payroll on alternating weeks for each company. So payroll admins have reduced that processing time to about 8 hours, confirming complete, accurate, approved timesheets are ready for payroll. This critical data stream doesn't end in ADP. The full labor cost by project and activity is sent to D365 to complete that project costing picture to the business. So what happens next? From here, real data analytics begin. When accurately costed time data is available to the ERP system, the business is not only completing the most accurate accounting of labor and contracts possible, but also enabling a greater data analytics opportunity for all data users. The more data intelligence an organization possesses, the more informed they become as an employer and a service provider. When Carol and I had the chance to talk about how this empowered each of the different roles and data users at SymSTAR, she summed it up best with this bottom line quote: turnover results in a high cost to the business. And you can hear the kind of subtle duh at the end of that statement. And as controller to a company with a dynamic workforce and dynamic client base, the more her teams can anticipate, the better. So don't take my word for it. I'm going to invite Carol, who's joined me today, to take us back to where this started, a whiteboard image that I insisted she share to paint the epic what-if data workflow scenario she envisioned at SymSTAR before they partnered with Journyx.
Good morning. Before I get started, I want to make it clear that you can do this without having a background in computer science or programming or software engineering. I don't have a technical background in any of those fields. I'm actually an accountant by training. I have the bachelor's in accounting, I have the CPA licenses, those things. This picture is an actual picture of a large whiteboard that sits in my office.
Carol, I'm sorry,
yes?
we cannot see your screen. Would you, accept the presentation? I just made you.
Okay, I thought we were still looking at the one picture. So let me pop that over. There we go. Is that better?
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that, Carol.
Okay, sorry. I thought that was managed. Okay, so this picture is an actual picture of a whiteboard in my office. It sits right in front of my face above my monitor screen, so I see it every single day. For several years, it looked exactly like what you see here. I had this idea that we would be able to take data from all of our different spaces and combine it and automate several different reports. We spend several weeks every quarter manually inputting a pile of data from our ERP system into spreadsheets and then feeding those spreadsheets into a PowerPoint presentation. We have a set of presentations for our projects, our program reviews, and another set for financial reviews. Just the financial set takes 2.5 weeks and 3 people to prepare. So it's a huge time commitment. As our companies grow, the process is not sustainable. Eventually, we either have to find an army of people to get it done, or we have to find a better way to do it. So this picture was my way of explaining that we could automate all of these things and get it done more efficiently. This picture stayed on my whiteboard for a long time as I built support for the initiative, got some approvals, and got a budget put together. Admittedly, there were people who thought I was crazy, who thought we'd never get it approved, much less accomplished. Right now today, we're halfway there, and we expect to complete the entire vision before the end of the year. This slide is the data journey slide. We actually got this from a company that we use as our consulting group for our ERP system called Columbus Global. They're a value-added reseller for all Microsoft ERP systems. We use Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, formerly known as AX 2012. And they also support Great Plains and navigation. Our D365 implementation was performed last year. We upgraded, and we completed it about 60 days ago in mid-December. When we started the process, we were over in the bottom left corner of this journey. If you see 2008 is circled, we had what happened. We had our standard reports. We had ad hoc reports. Those were always a manual process and painful to put together. We wanted to get up to the top right, figuring out what if trends continue, what might happen next, looking more at predictive analytics. Eventually, we'd like to get to the point where we can see what is the best possible outcome. The great universal example of predicting is employee turnover. In our business, the total combination of factors that might indicate a pending turnover include total hours worked, total days traveled, whether an employee has a new spouse or perhaps a new child, decreasing raise percentages, low satisfaction survey scores, low bonus payouts, maybe somebody's nearing retirement age, they're increasing their 401k contributions, or they have a change of address, a different commuting distance. Unfortunately, we don't have all of this data in any one software package. It's spread out among our ERP system, Journyx, and ADP. So we needed a way to combine all three pieces. For us, that is going to be an Azure data lake. The data lake is in process as I speak. We connected Journyx to the data lake last week. This data lake will be the new home for all of our data, and it's going to feed all of our reporting needs. For today, I can show you the power of connecting your Journyx data into Power BI and show you some of what that looks like. Now, I am the admin for this, so I have access to all of the workspaces. We actually can deploy different reports through different workspaces to control who has access to which reports. So as you're looking at my screen, don't be surprised when you see that I have many workspaces. As we said, CymSTAR is a project-based company. Instead of building 10,000 identical little small widgets, we might build 5 big things at a time. This means we're heavily focused on that project job costing. All production time must be charged to a specific project or indirect cost account. Within each project, we have a work breakdown structure that provides the task that time is charged to. So because of that structure, an employee may have one line, they may have 100 different lines on their timesheet. And so this report gives us an easy way to summarize the hours and view the data in a variety of ways depending on who's looking at the report. We have been using the Report Link Excel add-on for Journyx to create the data source that's connected to Power BI for all Journyx reporting. Our admin and payroll staff pretty much use the Journyx built-in reports for accruals and things like that, but operationally, most of our management uses Power BI reports exclusively. The primary benefit is Power BI allows the user to slice and dice the data in a variety of ways. I might have it set up with all of these filters wide open when I publish the report, but each different user can come in and see exactly what they need to do with just a few clicks. Here on this report, this is our pure Journyx hours report, and I have 9 different filters. I have a date filter, I have the supervisor filter, the user, the name of the project or activity, I have the company, I have the project number, I have pay type, user home department code, and category names. If I'm working in the project management workspace, so if I was a project manager at SimSTAR, I might want to know who's charging time to my program. So if I know my project number, I can very quickly come in here and choose one project number, and dynamically I now see exactly who's charging time. And maybe, especially if I'm looking at the bottom section of this waterfall chart, I might see that there's a problem. This person isn't authorized to charge time to my project, so why are they? And by hovering over the little green line, I can see that they charged 2.25 hours. This might be a mistake. It might just be that they've picked the wrong charge code. So if that's the case, I can click on Nelson's name here. I might even come over to my user full name and search for Nelson and select just him. Now I have a waterfall chart that only shows him. And then when I click over to my table, I can see exactly what dates he charged from his timesheet, exactly what hours he charged, and exactly what activity he's working on. So as the project manager, if I'm looking at this in mid-February, I can go, oh, that's right. We did ask him to work on these few activities, and those hours are probably correct. When I come back to my chart and clear out the name filter, I'm back to my full waterfall. If it was a mistake, I now have the information. I can take action. I can go back to Nelson and say, hey, you've charged time to my project. I don't think that's correct. And we could initiate a timesheet correction. If instead of being a project manager, I'm an engineering manager, I might want to know what the workload is among a group of engineers. So by selecting the category name software engineer, I have a waterfall chart that shows me what hours are being charged by which individual. Now right here, it looks like about 275 hours are being charged by most people, but I have this one outlier, and he's charged 434.5 hours at this point. As the manager, that should stick out to me and make me question whether or not I have him working too much. By contrast, I have some people down here that really aren't spending a lot of time charging hours. We have one guy with only 236 hours. The last two entries happen to be engineering managers that we're filling in, so I know what that is. But at this point, I still have all of my pay types. So I have vacation included, and I have bereavement leave hours included. So maybe I want to click on my regular time and bring that down to say, okay, what are we really working? Well, he's still working 434.5 hours, but my average has gone down a little bit. My green lines have shortened up just a touch, and now we're running around 276 instead of the higher number. I can look at this and say, you know, I need to change something. I need to find out what he's working on. So I might look at filtering down to just Zach, looking at my, now, one thing I should point out is that once I make a selection in one filter, all of the other filters change as well. So I now have a list of all the different things he's been charging time to just in my project selection. If I go to the table, I can see all of the different activities he's charged by day, by activity, all throughout all of his timesheets. It's a pretty extensive list for Zach. If I clear out my Zach filter, maybe I want to see what a more normal distribution should look like. And so I'll pick Matt Lewick. Here's his timesheet list, all the different things he looked at. Here's the projects. Well, gosh, he's only assigned to a half a dozen projects, where the last person was assigned to many more projects. So that's an opportunity for me as a manager to say, I need to rethink how we have Mr. Kirkendall assigned, because he's really assigned to way too many projects. And we can see that very quickly by just looking through here. As an administrator, as the controller for the company, and we said that we do have two companies, so that affects us greatly. A lot of times we'll hear, we have too many people in the administrative area. Well, that's because people sometimes forget that our finance, our HR, our contracts, our IT people all support two companies. So I have a category called regular cross charge. And here I can, one click, I can see we have spent over 2,000 hours charging time to the other company. That's over about a 6.5-week period this year. So that means, if I can do my math really quickly, that means I have 8 3/4 people dedicated to my second company. If I want to see how many people in my finance group, I pick my second filter here, and here's all of my finance people. 871 hours in 6 weeks means about 3.6 people. So if I know I have 9 people in finance, but 3.6 of them are really working for the other company, maybe it isn't really unreasonable that I have 9 people in total. We can also quickly monitor our overtime charges across the company just by clicking on the pay type overtime. And I get a waterfall chart that shows me all of the people that have charged to an overtime pay type. So I have one person that's working more than most. These top 2 guys, they're running 27 to 30 hours over 6 weeks. That means Kyle here is averaging about 5 hours a week. So if I'm concerned about overtime costs, maybe I need to think about doing something different. Maybe we need somebody to help Kyle out. Moving down through the list, we see Jody here. Now, as a manager, I know that both Jody and Kyle work for the same person. I could choose my supervisor here and see both of them are working for the same person, and I see a big difference between the overtime hours Jody's working and the overtime hours that Kyle is working, and then I could investigate that further. They do actually work on different activities, so this probably is fine for my company, but it might not be fine if they were doing the same activities, and we might have to figure out why one person is working so many more hours than the other one. So it gives us a quick visualization of our hours data in one report that can handle the needs of various different kinds of users and various interested parties. I'm going to switch over to a slightly different report. It's called the Bids and Proposals Hours Report. It has the same Journyx hours information as we had in the last report, but here we've filtered our data down so we're only seeing hours that were charged to bids and proposals projects. And we've also added some budget data in. This budget data comes strictly from an Excel file. So all of this budget information here, the status, whether or not the costs are recoverable, the program manager assigned, the project name, and the project number are all coming from an Excel file that we have joined in the background to the Journyx data. So I now have the ability to quickly see, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit to some of these later ones. This particular job, B&P 2019.38, we're 15 hours over budget. By adding some conditional formatting in the hours delta column, I can see just right off the bat that I've got an overage somewhere because I've conditionally formatted it to highlight the cell in red whenever this hours delta number is less than 0. If I look in the next 2 tabs, I've actually broken my budget hours out between program management and engineering. So all I have to do is either A, scroll down, or B, I could come up to my filter and select my project, and they will all 3 change with 1 click. So I see that my issue is really over in engineering hours. I could do that for any project I was concerned about. 26 looks like it's kind of got some problems going on. But in this case, we have a significant overage in engineering and a significant overage in program management. This is really useful to my business development group who's trying to get a better handle on allocation of hours budget to different activities. So they're still learning that, and this really helps them. They can also control their costs a little bit better because they're assigning a budget to the program manager and then expecting that program manager to manage his budget. When they go over, like they have here, the program manager is responsible to go back to business development and say, hey, I need more hours. And so there's this continuous back and forth between those two groups about how many hours we need to spend to put out a particular proposal. So it's very slightly different, but it does connect to other data sets to give us some more actuals. I'm going to show you one more report. It's called my Travel Days by Worker report. We talked about that in our employee turnover example. A critical factor in whether or not somebody decides to leave our company has tended to be how many days they have to travel. You can imagine if we hired a brand new college graduate and he's been here for 5 years now, maybe his life circumstances has changed and now there's a spouse or maybe there's a new baby. If I know that, for example, Brad Collins here traveled 80 days in 2019, that may be an indicator to me that we need to do something different because Brad traveled for 80 days, but we have people down here, say Bryant Hankton, who only traveled for 15. I can see what they traveled by project. I can also look at it by sub-project. And I'm going to have to scroll because I didn't make myself a better filter on this one. I'm going to have to fix that. I can't just type in my number like I want to. So if I look at a specific project, because I am in the project management workspace, if I'm the program manager, maybe I need to look and see, okay, I'm going to send somebody to site, or I've got work that needs to be done. I might want to be careful and not send Brad Collins. I might want to send Jeremy Hodgen instead to try and balance that travel out a little bit better so that we're not constantly sending the same people traveling all the time, so that we share that a little bit better among our staff. We do have a couple of people up here at the top that their particular job description, they're field service technicians, so they're expected to travel 75% of their time. But from about Ruben Garcia down, all of those are engineers and program managers. And so getting a more even distribution of the travel days is really important for employee work-life balance. And it's a factor that will significantly impact somebody's decision to leave if they can go someplace else and make the same money and not have to travel so much. So those are my Power BI reports that I have quick and easy to show you today. In about 6 more months, I will have these combined into giving me a single point report that will combine in some ADP data as well and give me a prediction about somebody who might be looking to leave our company.
Thanks, Carol. So I just want to confirm, are you back to my slides?
I am seeing your slides now, Melissa.
Great, thank you. So just a recap on Report Link and Power BI. Certainly Power BI is going to require that you're licensed for such a powerful tool, but Report Link is actually a standard tool that's part of every Journyx installation. And most, or at least half of the tools that we talked about today are in fact standard tools. So tools that you can make use of right out of the gate. The drop point cloud transfer service, and scheduled import utilities, report link, using leave tracking. all standard and part of every Journyx installation. So with Power BI bolted on to our report link tool, Carol was able to show you how data is able to be gleaned across those multiple data points, and it enables them to keep their eyes on database truths that help managers anticipate that turnover that we're all hoping to predict if we can, and just promote work-life balance and be better informed of the overall business health. Carol pointed out, but I want to highlight again, some of those examples could be high travel costs during home life challenges. So using multiple data points to portray that, or combinations of certain types of work. One thing that Carol shared with me was that when they have a person who has a specific job competency, passion, or skill set, if they're asking them to fill positions or to do work that is outside of that, and that fluctuates to a high degree or a high frequency, that's also another tell of a possible high-risk situation for turnover. And so the more their data provides that picture to them, the more they can anticipate and work out more balancing of that. So with the Journyx data available in Power BI, supervisors were able to see how many hours were charged at the summary and detail levels. Program managers could see the specific projects that were included, budget versus actual, which is always a nice thing for every project costing and project planning outfit. And management can review for over and underloaded employees, aiding to anticipate and mitigate turnover risk. We are certainly pretty proud of what CymSTAR is accomplishing there, and thanks, Carol, again for presenting that to us. You may be doing something similar with your Journyx data today, but if you aren't, I'm hoping you have come out of this session with some ideas on what is possible. I took a quick look at some of our client and cloud data sites and those that had tools, and I found that over 40% of Journyx Cloud customers have one or more tools enhancing their solution and making their key data more effective to their business. You have likely come up with some questions that you may like to ask us. You may choose to follow up with your account manager or even reach out to Journyx Professional Services yourself. But we think that these questions here are a great place to start to get the conversation rolling internally. So Journyx is so much more than timesheets, and the three questions that we're asking you to think about are: what data do we have at our fingertips to make us a better vendor, competitor, and employer? What manual processes exist that should be automated? Let's work smarter in 2020, not harder. And what is the one thing we would like to predict if we could, about our people, about our work, about our effort? And maybe that's in hours and dollars. Thanks again for attending.